Welcome to the Donlin Gold Rookie Workshop, brought to you by Woody's Traction Products. The 2022 Iron Dog has a record turnout in the Expedition class with 41 entries, and the Pro class has a respectable 29 teams, giving us a total of 31 Pro class and 22 Expedition class rookies. Of those, we have 9 all-rookie teams in the Pro class, so over half of our entries are rookies. The future for Iron Dog looks good. Please pay attention to this informative video and get a good understanding of what the Iron Dog race is all about. We have Pro Class champions, Iron Dog board members, veteran tech inspectors with years of experience to help guide you along. Watch the video at your convenience and send in your questions to director@irondog.org or call the office at 907-563-4414. No question is too small, so don't hesitate to ask. Listed in the email is contact info for Steve Swetson, the head race marshal, Roger Brown, Iron Dog board president, Jake Goodell, board member and in charge of scoring, Chris Olds, Iron Dog veteran, Dave Bathke, tech inspector, and Kelly Sherrier at the Iron Dog office. Once you have watched the Donlin Gold safety video, please contact Kelly so she can record your name as having watched the video and get your name added to the door prize drawings, like a $500 gift card from Team CC and some awesome Woodies and climb gear. So make sure you have record that you have watched the safety video and you may win some great prizes. Thank you and enjoy.
Hi, my name is Jake Goodell, Iron Dog Board of Directors, and I'd like to welcome all you 2021 participants to the Iron Dog. So some of you have tried this race before, some of you it's your first time, so we'll give you a little background on what we do to monitor and track the race throughout the course of the event. So in your racer packets, there'll be a small bracket. It looks like this. It has screws pre-installed in it with a vibration washer and a flat washer and a nylock. So you're going to want to mount this somewhere on the dash where it's relatively horizontal. Now in the racer packets also, we'll put a leaflet in there that are approved mounting locations for all the major manufacturers. Now this black vibration washer, you probably can't see it, but you're going to want to make sure that is on the bottom of the plastic covered by the flat washer before you tighten down the nylock. So these brackets will come in your racer packets, and the GPS unit we use is a spot trace unit. It's a one-way unit, and it's really no bigger than the actual bracket itself. So it's about 1/2 inch tall and about 2 inches by 2 inches. So what we'll do is you'll have the brackets on. When you get to the starting line, mount it to your sleds, and we'll come around with the GPS units that are assigned to your specific rider, and we'll put them in here. Now, one of the key things when you mount these, if you look on the bottom of the bracket, there's a channel here. Now we have to secure a zip tie around this to hold this clamshell together. So please, please, please don't put any double-sided tape or Velcro or anything underneath these. The 4 screws are plenty to hold them on. So these are a one-way unit. There is no SOS or two-way communication function like you might see on like an InReach or a regular spot. This is just a single direction unit. So you won't have to mess with them. We don't even have to change the batteries in GNOME. So once we install these, don't worry about them. If we have a problem, usually we'll send some of these to various checkpoints along the trail, and we'll try and get it changed out for you guys. Now, one thing to remember is these units are communicating with a satellite, and you're going through some pretty remote areas. So there may be a time or two where you don't receive a report. So that typically happens around Hills Gate, right outside of Puntilla. Also, if you're traveling east, that is fairly common sometimes, depending on which side of the sled the tracker is mounted on. They do work. Every 6 minutes they'll ping, but occasionally you may miss one. So with these, mount them. We'll put them on. You shouldn't have to worry about them. Now the other thing I do is I manage the timing program for Iron Dog. So myself and one of our other engineers that I work with are behind the scenes, and we take the data that comes out of the checkpoints and we help the volunteers input it into the timing system. Now, every once in a while, you have to understand people get tired. They've been doing this for several days straight sometimes, and they do make mistakes, but rest assured, we do our best to try and make sure that what goes into the website is what the checkers are actually telling us and is correct. And we do have some tools that we can use. We can correspond some of the GPS data with some of the timing data to actually see if there was a mistake made. So that's part of what we do. Please do realize, though, it also takes a few minutes sometimes. If you have a lot of teams come into a checkpoint, that checker's primary responsibility is to refuel your sleds, make sure you have oil, make sure you guys are safe and checked in, and then when they get a break, they'll call the times into HQ. So we are reliant on volunteers. So please tell your family and friends to be patient. It does take a couple minutes till it goes live to the website. Other than that, that's about all I have. If you guys have any questions, my phone number will be in the Iron Dog Racer packet, so you can give me a call. If you'd like to shoot me some pictures or come look at a potential mounting location, I'm more than happy to do that. But as a general rule, on the dash, relatively face up, somewhere where it can see the sky. Good places right in front of the handlebars where they're relatively protected. We typically don't allow racers to put them outside the windshield, say on the hood, or mounted vertical on the side panel or something like that. So any questions, give me a call. Thanks again and good luck, guys.
The following was performed by everyday riders like you. Please try and help. Matt's a straight ripper.
I heard the turbo and I was just giggling under my helmet.
Look at that.
I look like a pro. Woohoo!
Dude, I love that thing.
Get that ski-doo feeling at Team CC in Eagle River and Wasilla.
Mike Morgan, Team 10. This will be my 12th Iron Dog, 10th with Chris here. Got a long run going. See how much longer this is going to go. We've got some pretty good success. We got 2 wins in 18 and 19. So looking forward to a good season this year.
Chris Olds, Team 10. I've been doing the Iron Dog for 20 years. I've won 4 times and have a lot of top 5 finishes. We're going to talk today about what it takes to run the race. We're going to kind of go through in each section, kind of explain the different things to prep and get ready for the race. So
yeah, what it takes to run the race, what it takes to get to the finish, and everything in between.
Yeah.
So
first I want to talk about, we're going to kind of go over stuff that we do. It's pretty generic, some of the stuff. Make sure you read the rule book because we don't have every single little thing out here today. So make sure you read the rule book and make sure you have everything as far as necessary equipment for the sled and for the survival equipment and everything that you're supposed to carry. So we'll kind of go over most of the stuff, but again, just look at the rules. All right, we're going to start with survival mandatory equipment that we're supposed to carry.
Yep. Got our first aid kit.
Yep.
You get that from, where's that place on Old Seward?
Yeah.
Sells all this stuff.
So make sure that what you're carrying is adequate too. Again, check with the rules, check with the race marshals. Make sure what you have is going to suffice for, like a little Band-Aid kit's not going to be enough. So
yeah,
make sure you have the right deal. Each team's required to carry a hatchet or a saw. We actually usually both carry saws just because you never know if you're end up being separated, having a saw if you're stuck in the trees.
Yep. Yeah, we're always cutting brush pretty much every ride. So
yeah. Waterproof matches, fire starter stuff. I mean, we carry multiple different things to be able to start a fire. Mm-hmm. Make sure that you have what's required, and then stuff that's actually practical and usable when you're out there.
Sufficient food food with sufficient calories.
Yeah, there's the food. We've got the our Arctic stove. Mm-hmm. We just carry a small little stove with some
one extra fuel reserve.
We're supposed to carry a little pot. We don't have one out here, but a pot to be able to boil, to get some water going. Rope, 25 foot is the minimum that you're supposed to have. I can tell you that that's really not enough. You end up, breaking a rope or fraying a rope. So sometimes having a little bit more than that. Also, the minimum thickness is sometimes not quite enough. So make sure you have some heavy rope. I like to carry a lot of little paracord, ratchet straps, stuff like that you can also use. This also makes great
Cobbling things
yeah,
together.
putting things back together like A-arms, strapping hoods or seats down, whatever. So it can come in handy. Obviously, you're supposed to carry an extra belt.
Got our sleeping bag here.
Yep.
Which is the biggest mandatory piece that you'll carry. Bivy bag. REI minimalist bivy bag.
Yep. And again, check the requirements for the bivy bag. The little survival ones aren't going to be good enough. You have to have something similar to this with the ripstop material.
Are we going to talk about the inReach or the...
Yeah, a couple things too that's not necessarily required, but things that I like to carry is like an inReach, something that has a GPS, also something that if things really went wrong, you could actually you can text out if it's maybe not super critical, but you can also get search and rescue with it. So
yeah, we pretty much bring those on every ride.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of like I said, even though it's not mandatory with the Iron Dog, it's something that we like to carry.
Yeah, and an alternative to the Iron Dog tracking system.
Yep.
With tools or?
We can kind of go into tools that we carry with us. We actually have multiple. I don't remember what the rules say. I think it says like 5 pounds of minimum tools. So we carry. Kind of a kit that we've kind of, over the years, it's gotten bigger and smaller over the years, depending on what we carry. But, usually we have what we need to be able to do on-trail repairs. It's kind of more of a trial and error in being out there and breaking down and, figuring out what we actually need.
Yeah, one big item that stands out to me in all of our adventures is flashlights and we actually Velcro lights onto the sides of our helmets because you're going to be racing a lot in the dark, and it kind of sucks without if you don't have any lighting or anything to see what you're doing when you're making repairs. So flashlights and lights mounted on the sides of your helmets go a long ways. You'll be thankful to have those.
Yeah, and flashlights are mandatory equipment. I carry this in my pocket. And then like Mike says, we have some on the helmet too. But there's again some of the things that's tool wise that we carry. We carry some vice grips, some miscellaneous end wrenches,
A multi-tool, a Leatherman goes a long way.
A Leatherman. I didn't set my Leatherman out here, but yeah, Leatherman. We have a lot of Torx bits in our sleds, so we carry those. Some Allens and stuff that we use. I carry a bag of bolts, miscellaneous bolts that go with us. It has washers and
stuff for the specific sled.
Yeah, stuff for our specific sled. But again, it's kind of over time. I carry this steel stick. It's like a putty, it's an epoxy putty. It kind of it works good. Hose clamps have come in handy for patching an A-arm.
Yeah.
Miscellaneous screws to be able to patch screws and washers to maybe patch for a coolant leak if you get one in your.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hood darts.
Hood darts, plastic fasteners, all the small things.
Zip ties are big, so it's kind of our. Again, what we carry when we were out practicing and what we carried for the race.
Yeah.
I think we'll go into
no machine accessories.
I think we'll do that last because we're going to talk about the sled. We can talk about nutrition and hydration, personal hygiene. You know, a big part of it, obviously, getting up to the race is, you know, eating healthy, drinking a lot. I can tell you, yeah, lots of water. You know, you'll drink a gallon a day. You can't, once you become dehydrated, it takes days to get rehydrated. So, leading up to the Iron Dog, you want to make sure that you, you know, stay very extra hydrated all the way up to the race and then into the race. We actually carry, I would highly recommend either like a Camelback or having a spot where you can mount a water jug. We've done that in the past, so that you can actually drink when you're at the layovers, or not layovers, but checkpoints. Make sure that you drink something if there's something available. You want to make sure that you stay hydrated. You know, we carry, usually we carry some, besides our mandatory nutrition that we're supposed to carry, we also carry a couple like power bars with us.
Yeah, something to scarf down.
Yep, if you need it. Make sure that you also test those out, because a lot of them, the honey-based nutrition bars get rock hard and they're impossible to eat.
Yeah,
so make sure that you, more than likely make sure that you get like a almond butter based or one of the, you know, maybe a nut based bars, so that they're not rock solid when you go to eat it. You know, other things that people do is like jerky and, you know,
whatever.
Yeah,
throw something in.
Have something just so in case you. And also, if you break down, you have something some food.
Yeah. Okay, what else?
I think that's as far as on that section. I think we can. Personal hygiene. Make sure that you're carrying. You know, you want to make sure you carry a toothbrush, toothpaste, extra sets of clothes. When you get to a checkpoint or a layover, you want to make sure you have, you know, things that you want that are, you know, medicine, that kind of stuff too. If there's anything that,
or you can send stuff to some of the hubs along the way, like Galena, you know, McGrath, Nome. Send stuff ahead, extra layers or whatever, or whatnot.
Yep.
Change clothes for Nome would be good. We always have, we send a bag up to Nome with some stuff to wear while we're working on sleds in the garage there, and then while we're out and about in the town, in the city of Nome there, and so.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna talk about the gear that we use out there racing. We use the Climb brand, obviously. Climbs. We've been running Climb since the beginning, and they've been pretty amazing stuff, and they've evolved throughout the years, and they keep us warm and dry out there, whether it's 30 above or 30 below or 50 below on the Yukon at times. And anyway.
Yeah. So a couple things. You know, generally, one of the things that I always hit on really big is that, you know, what works for us might not work for you. So you really got to get out and train and try different stuff.
Figure out what layering what layering works for you. There's, you know, they make a 1, 2, and a 3.0 base layer system. Climb does 1, 2. I think these are 2.0s. And then, 1, 2, 3.0 base layer systems, all kinds of different mid layers.
Yeah, mid layers, wool. I prefer wool myself. I wear a lot of wool. I've got,
mid layers range kind of from this stuff to.
Yeah, the heavier all the way up to the torque jacket for a base layer. When you're on the Yukon, this could be, you know, when you're not making a lot of,
you're not very active and just going full throttle, sitting down, you're gonna get cold. So something like this helps a lot under your shell.
Yeah, something thick in on your bottom layer too. Like if you just wear it, you want to layer up obviously on the Yukon and on the heavier sections, or on the sections where you're really working out. You want to be wearing something thin. I always tell people that I think that you're better off to actually dress a little bit light, so that you're not sweating, because the sweat is what really will. You getting damp is what's going to get you cold.
Yeah.
So I like, I actually only wear typically like a.
We wear all non-insulated gear. For
Yeah.
instance, we wear the Valdez parka and the Togety bibs.
Yeah, so
that
you're,
Klein makes.
so you're, we just wear a shell so that we can just layer up from there. So if we really want to, we can wear something super thin under this.
Yep.
I typically, until it gets to about 10 to 20 below, I will wear a layer just like this for the top and bottom, and that's it. So it's pretty
Yeah.
thin.
That chest protector,
Yep.
shell over top, and that's about it.
Yeah, so one thing for the Iron Dog is you have to wear some personal protective gear that you may not normally ride with if you haven't raced, is like a tech vest, protective vest. Make sure that you ride with one of these well in advance. They get this definitely changes what you would normally wear. Obviously, it's a lot warmer than if you don't have this. So
Yeah, it's like adding another layer of insulation.
yep. So make sure you practice with it a lot. I would definitely start wearing it. I've gotten to the point now where I feel naked without wearing one, so I just wear it all the time. There's no exception. I just wear it all the time. Knee pads and shin pads, same thing. I just wear them every time, and I'm used to them.
Yep.
The other thing that we wear are these the tactical shorts. They're padded. They've actually got a butt padding, kind of like a bicycle short. So it actually gives you a little bit of extra protection there. Plus, if you wipe out, it has some impact protection.
Yep. Shin guards.
Make sure that your base layer is a wool or a poly. They say, that they say that cotton kills. Don't be wearing cotton underneath. So,
Yep.
gloves. We wear different style gloves all the time. I kind of just go with like a mid-weight glove is what is my go-to glove now.
Klein's Power Cross.
Yeah, the
glove.
Power Cross glove. It seems to
Kinda
work
standard.
it seems to work in almost all the conditions. I always carry two of them with me. A couple things that you just want to make sure that your gloves aren't wet. As soon as they get wet, what happens is you'll form blisters, especially if you just kind of keep powering through it. You're better off just to stop and change your gloves out. Also, over the last couple years, the other thing that we've done is, carry an extra set of like heavier gloves. So when it gets really cold out, it could save you. I mean, it's
Yeah.
crazy when it gets really cold.
Yep. Nothing worse than having cold hands and stuff. So we have, gauntlets are mandatory
Yeah,
as well, right?
gauntlets. Yeah, gauntlets. I'm not sure if they're mandatory. I don't remember, but I think that it's
Every team pretty much has gauntlets on their sleeve.
yeah, and we have gauntlets. I was going to show them.
And I don't really like gauntlets myself, so I kind of use ones that I could roll up pretty easily.
Yeah. Here's like the climb ones. I use these for most of my riding. I've also got some heavier ones if we know it's going to be super cold out. Again, just kind of depends on the weather. These ones are pretty easy to get my hands in and out of, and they definitely help. Just I ride pretty much 90% of the time with gauntlets just because it keeps my hands drier and obviously warmer. I've got really poor circulations. I've frostbitten my hands quite a few times, so they like to be warm. Talking about the
Helmets and goggles.
yeah, helmets and goggles. A lot of guys wear open face helmets. I wore an open face helmet for 15 years in the Iron Dog. They work really well. I don't have one here to show you, but with the face mask, they provide really good wind protection. The biggest downfall is they obviously don't have the face protection of a motocross style helmet. Over the last few years, we've gone to the motocross helmet, F3 and F5.
Added protection and then.
Yeah, obviously the added protection. Something else too is your helmet has to be blaze orange. Per the rules, make sure that it's going to meet the requirements. You don't want to find out that the day of the tech inspection that your helmet's not going to meet the requirements. So that's something you might want to check ahead of time to make sure that you have the the amount and the type of orange is going to be acceptable.
These are the side lights we mount on the sides of our helmets.
Yeah.
Um,
So the whole goggles, face protection, it's one of those ones that a lot of people struggle with. A lot of it is because wind can get in your helmet, and it's it's one of the least protected. Your body extremity is kind of like the least protected. It can be above the windshield, or if you lose a windshield, your face is just out exposed in the elements. And
yeah, go test with it and play with it a lot, so you know which vents to tape off if you want to tape some vents off, and then always carry spare goggles with you.
Yeah.
We've always
So it's mandatory to carry spare goggles. We'll kind of go over it with our machine setup, but we carry a bag so that we can actually thaw goggles out. Some of the sleds have dash bags that you can thaw goggles out, but carrying 2 or 3 pairs of goggles is always a good thing, just so that you don't have to stop and wait for goggles to thaw out. You can just swap them out real quick. There's 1,000 different helmet and goggle combinations, so what we use again might not work. We've been trying these Edge goggles with Climb. They seem to work really well. The Oculus goggles work really well. They fit in the Climb helmets really well.
We do have to tape them off.
Yep. I'm kind of one of those guys that's pretty lucky. I don't sweat or I don't fog up a lot. So, and I have like a severe dry eye, so I prefer not to get a lot of wind in my goggles. So I tend to tape up, if not all the vents, most of the vents, to keep a bunch of air from flowing into my goggle. Again, it's something that you need to try.
Yeah.
When it's really cold out, it's also nice because obviously it keeps you warmer.
You know, I have kind of 2 different setups that I run with on the sled. I have I'll have a pair that I have kind of opened up to where air will flow through, and then I have my spare set will be kind of closed up and taped off more for, say, the Yukon River or the higher speed areas like the coast where you're just going, you're going fast, you're not working very hard. And then I have my open vented pair for the trees and the tougher, more active areas.
And I do kind of the same thing. Again, I get away with a little bit less ventilation, but I'll usually leave, like my spare set will have just one little vent open just so that it will flow a little bit more than these ones, for instance. Face mask, I've gone to this Arctic balaclava from Climb. It's got a built-in mask like this, breath deflector. It's all neoprene.
It's all mapped out in areas with wind stopper material on like your face and on your neck and stuff.
Yep. We use, when it gets really cold out, I'll wear like a neck gaiter, and or use, again, people used to just use duct tape to tape up their face. I'm real susceptible to getting frostbite in here and here over the years, so if I can't quite get a good seal on my goggles, I'll get the 3M tape, and it's a little bit more forgiving than like duct tape. It's also thicker,
like the medical,
yeah,
or the medical tape.
But it will it just something to try. The thing is if you're out training and you start getting windburn, or if you start feeling it get cold, it's almost too late. You want to stop right then, adjust your face, maybe tape your face up, because what happens is as soon as you start getting frostbite, you don't feel it at all. So you think that you're okay, but you're not. So as soon as you start feeling windburn on your neck or face, just go ahead and get it
taken care of.
Yeah, just take care of it. And it kind of one of those snowball effects, because then once it's frostbite, and you have to deal with it, especially like during the race, trying to get it to heal, and using tape and stuff. It's just not a. Also talk about the lead dog helmet light. One of the things is a brake light's mandatory for the race. So if for some reason it were to, if you ended up losing your backlight from a crash or something like that, the lead dog does have a brake light built in, and it's actually acceptable as a
Iron Dog.
Yeah, Iron Dog for Iron Dog. But if you haven't tried a helmet light, you might want to try one. A couple of years we've had them, and they were definitely lifesavers when in a couple of years that we did. So again, something you might want to try. I think that's it on the gear.
Yeah, we're required to carry some spares.
Oh yeah.
We basically Ziploc or vacuum seal a couple sets of spare set of socks and some thermals.
You need a complete
base
set
layers.
of base layers with you. We also, again, kind of on the machines, we actually carry some additional, I usually carry like a thicker something with me, so in case I break down, I can put something on, not freeze to death, just because, you know, it's like the torque jacket that we showed earlier. Like I usually carry one of those in my sled, just so, like I said, if it gets really cold, I can put it on, or if we break down.
Yep.
All right, we'll kind of go into training, talk about training a little bit. You know, I've done this race before with 12 days before the race without any, without getting in shape or training, and I did the race, and it is possible. I don't recommend it. I prefer to be physically ready, to be, you know, mentally and physically more prepared than that. But again, you can do that.
We typically ride every weekend, trying to stay conditioned basically, and just, you know, I'd recommend riding up to Puntilla at least once or twice before the race to see what you're getting yourself into, because that's kind of the most technical, the roughest part of the race. So I'd go through there at least once or twice, and then you can kind of test your gear and see what works for you with base layering and shells and everything. And your helmet set up, face mask, goggles, everything.
Yep. One of the things with talking about training, you know, typically, you know, I'm hitting the gym, you know, 4 or 5 days a week, and like Mike says, we kind of have over the years, we used to do a lot more smaller rides. You know, now we do less rides, I would say, but our rides are longer, so we just try and you know, kind of just make them count. So what we do is, like Mike said, we typically go once, maybe twice a week, but typically once a week, and we go for a big ride and kind of build ourselves up. And basically our goal is every weekend just try and go further than we did the week before, to just kind of build our way up. And usually before the end of the race, we're, you know, our last couple rides are in the, you know, 500-mile range. So it's, you know, we're putting in big days so that when the race starts,
It's
you
all
know,
kind of
we're
second
ready.
nature, and we're conditioned and everything, and you're used to it. So.
Going out on those big rides also kind of just prepares you for the race, both with the weather. You know, you go on those big rides, and you can you know, one thing that you have to do is you have to go out there and train when it's super cold. You know, it's going to be 25 below on the Yukon, maybe colder. It's been, I think, the coldest we've seen on the race is in the, you know, 50 something below. Mike and I were training, it was 60 below one time. You at least need to get out there and try your gear.
Yeah.
You know, make sure that your windshield is going to be adequate, your gear is going to be adequate. You know, I carry the hot hands and stuff like that, so if it gets really cold, same with the ones that go on your feet. That trip that I was talking about, Mike and I did a 60 below trip on the Yukon. It was the first time I used those boot warmers, and it was amazing just putting those in, and made it a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, we had some issues, so we we got colder than we typically would if we were running. So we luckily we had those, the hand warmers, the feet warmers.
Yeah, when it comes to training, we like to have our sleds set up very similar to our race sleds. Might not be 100%, but it's, you know, 95% built like our race sleds. So we kind of know, you know, what our sleds are gonna, you know, weight wise, and you know how they're gonna handle.
Yep.
So again, it's just putting on miles. I mean, I would say realistically, if you're doing the rec class, you know, maybe try and put on 1,000 miles before the race. Obviously the more the better. You know, if you're doing the pro class, again, you know, push for 2,000 miles or more. I mean, I would say that's, if you're gonna take it serious, like I said, I've done it and where I've been in shape and not in shape, and it's a lot more fun when you're in shape and ready for it.
Yeah. Typically 2,000 miles for a baseline.
Yep.
Pretty much standard.
You know, riding out a big lake is good because you can get some bumps, you know, get kind of heated up, and then you get on the river. Again, it's something to think about when you're training. You know, what you want to wear. You know, opening your vents up make a big difference. We didn't talk about that in the clothing one, but you know, you can use your vents is huge for climate control. You start getting hot. You know, you can ask Mike. As soon as I start getting hot, I stop and take stuff off or unzip my jacket and unzip my vents, so that I'm not overheating. You know, we kind of talked about the hydration. Same thing when you're training, and again up to the race. Make sure that you're not training and not rehydrating, because it takes days to get rehydrated. So make sure that you're drinking a lot. You know, talk about like tobacco withdrawal or caffeine withdrawal. One thing that like I actually try and limit my caffeine all the way up to the race, especially the last month before the race. I'm addicted to caffeine, so I just take it out of my diet, and then I don't have to worry about it during the race. I know some people it doesn't affect too much, but something to think about anyways. You know, we kind of talked about training with the sled setup, like race sleds. You know, training with weight on the sled, like you have your tools. The other thing that I like to do, fuel tanks, all the weight like you're going to have during the race. We like to have that on a practice sled so that we're, you know, when we get to the race day, it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, you're used to it and everything. It's all familiar.
And on top of that, having stuff like our tools with us, and you end up start stashing them in a place where it's the same place all the time. So when you're out training, you know exactly where your saw is at. And then when it comes race day, it's just kind of second nature. You know exactly where everything's at. So it's really not a big deal.
All my kids are going in and out of the house. And with the 2 weeks off, I'm able to spend time with my grandbabies and my kids. So I really enjoy it.
It's a nice schedule. You know, I get time to work and make the money, then go home and provide for my family.
This job helps me to do that, you know, to purchase the equipment I need to go hunting.
What better people to be working there than the ones right here?
And now we're going to talk about race strategy.
Yeah, so race strategy, a couple things. You know, basically you kind of set out for a plan and how you're going to do the race, whether it's the checkpoints, how you're going to run the race, and know that you're going to have to change your plan. So there's, you know, have a plan A, B, C, all the way to Z, because things are going to change.
Weather changes, snow conditions change.
Yeah.
You'll have a pre-race plan, you know, this is kind of how we're going to do our layovers, and then you get into the race and you got to kind of plan on the fly, plan for the weather, plan for snow conditions, like I said, and then, you know, if you see a bunch of pro class vets laying over somewhere, we've seen it a few times where rookies would go ahead not knowingly, go ahead and break trail for all of us, which is nice, but when you see a bunch of pro class veterans laying over, you should, it's a pretty clear indication, and there's a reason why they're doing that. So
I mean, not every time that's the case, but yeah, for the most part, if you see a guy, if everybody's laying over, there's probably a good reason why. So you know, at the end of the day, everyone's going to have a problem, so you want to make sure that you don't let those issues really dictate your whole race. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody has a problem, whether it's minor or major. You get lost, you break down, you have to fix your machine, you have to tow. It's always a bummer, and it's easy to get down because of that. But that's actually when I think you can win the race or have a better shot of doing well, because, you know, keep a positive attitude. Fighting with your teammate because he hit a tree or something's not gonna fix it any faster. It's just gonna piss everybody off. And so you're better off to just figure out what it's gonna take to fix the machine,
Yep.
change the plan, figure out what's going to be the most efficient, and move forward. It's pretty amazing. I think a lot of people, after they race the first time, realize the pace that you have to go, what you have to do. It's really just about being efficient. It's not necessarily being the fastest guy out there. Really, at the end of the day, it's really about the person with the least amount of problems is doing well. So
consistency.
Yeah.
And,
consistency and not having problems. So going too fast and breaking your sled is not the fastest way to do this race. You're actually better to slow down a little bit, make the mistakes.
Make sure decisions and don't second guess things, it's a long race, so anything can happen. Keep your head in the game. Like you said, you're most likely gonna have issues, whether it's minor or major. So just, it's a long race. You got a lot of ground you can make up potentially, and so just never over until it's over.
Yeah.
And this race has come down to the last corner in some years. So
yeah, and things things snowball in the race really fast. So most of the time you're better off, instead of just doing a quick patch job, is to fix something correct, because what happens is you kind of do a quick fix. It's a temporary fix, and then what happens is that breaks, and then it something else breaks because of that. Whether you can't turn and you hit a tree and then take out more stuff, you really didn't end up saving any time. So a lot of time you're better off to just, we kind of talked about the frostbite. Again, fix it when you're right then and there. Just fix the problem and move forward, because what happens is those little issues end up snowballing and become big issues. So
you don't have to address it again later.
Yeah, and so lots of times when you get to a checkpoint or a layover, if you have problems with your sled, you're better off just to fix it then and there. Don't wait and put it off.
Mm-hmm.
Safety is obviously priority. Helping people along the trail. We don't expect people to stop for us because we're stuck out in the middle of the trail, but it is nice to make sure that at least everybody's okay if you go by somebody, make sure that they're at least all right. Have a courtesy of giving guys thumbs up that are riding by you, so they don't have to stop and ask you. Just tell them everything's good, give them a thumbs up so you can move on.
Mm-hmm.
Same with if you're a slower racer in certain sections, going from Squintna to Puntilla, for instance, it's one lane, and it's real easy to, some of the faster guys are behind you. Make sure that you just get out of their way. Don't hold them up. They're not going to be happy with you. Eventually someone's going to ram you, and then you're going to break a tail light or something. So just do yourself a favor. Sometimes we understand that sometimes it's hard to, in a single lane, it's really hard to get off. But as soon as you get to a little open spot, do everyone a favor and just pull over.
Yeah, we're all out there in the middle of nowhere, and we're all kind of racing together. And chances are, if you help somebody, they're going to help you later down the trail. So most likely pay off for you.
Yep. Yeah, pulling a ski can really help out later on.
Mm-hmm.
Other things to be thinking about is, you again kind of be prepared for anything. Being prepared for an emergency if somebody gets hurt, if your teammate gets hurt, if you get hurt. Just making sure that you're, prepared for that. I mean, it's like I said, things are going to happen in this race, and more than likely something will happen. So make sure that you're using your smarts. Again, sometimes slower is faster in this race, because
Going
destroying
just a little bit faster really exponentially increases your chances of hitting something or crashing or having an issue like that or breaking something.
Mm-hmm.
So just slow down just a little bit can really pay off.
It can. Going over a blind hill or a blind corner real fast.
Trying to make up time, for instance.
Yeah.
I mean, usually doesn't pay off.
I've learned in this race over the years that's one thing is, what happens is all these guys you get jitters when you start, and you want to just be really fast. You don't want to be slow, and so
you're trying to make up every second.
Yeah. Well, what happens is even at the beginning of the race, these guys go out there, and almost every year someone crashes within the first
100 miles.
20 miles of the race. Sometimes even like leaving Big Lake, there's been multiple years where guys are done within a mile or two of, barely off the lake, and they're done because their jitters,
Yeah. When your adrenaline's going and the jitters are going, you're hitting stuff faster than you normally would, and you're just miscalculating the speed you're coming up on stuff.
I tell people all the time that, Mike and I, we go out and we practice every weekend. We ride a lot. When we start the race, we're not doing anything different. We're riding the same that we ride when we go out and practice. We're not all of a sudden going to be faster riders during the race. If anything, we actually sometimes slow down a little bit more than we would when we're practicing because we don't want to take those chances or
we usually
save the sled.
We usually take the first 5 or 10 miles just to warm up and get in the groove of things and get sweating a little bit, and then we kind of, once we're in the zone, we kind of start focusing and racing more.
Yeah.
To start from the start of the race.
It's good just to take it easy, get your kind of get in your groove. Get on the main trail, and then once you start feeling kind of warm up, feel comfortable, that's the time. That's when you can start picking up the pace. But you see it a lot during the race. Same with when someone passes you up, all of a sudden you're gonna be a faster guy, and then you want to pass that team up. Well, that's once you start getting into these little individual races with each other, that's when you start having problems. Someone's going to blow a corner, you're going to hit a tree.
Stay focused and ride your own race.
Yes, that's probably the biggest thing on this. If someone passes you up, good, maybe you can latch onto their bumper and follow them for a while. But don't try and all of a sudden ride out of your comfort zone. You want to ride within your comfort zone the whole race, because if you're not, that's when that causes problem. If you're having these oh crap moments all the time, you're going way too fast. You want to slow down, and you just want to ride your own race. Again, getting into these little individual battles with people, that's when we see a lot of problems. And like I said, guys want to go faster than they really can, and then that's when your race is going to end. You're just better off to just ride your pace and don't change that. That should be number one priority on your plan that we talked about. Just ride your race and not somebody else's race.
Yep.
I think going into layovers and checkpoints, we can move into that.
Again, these people in the checkpoints are volunteers, so just keep your cool with them, be polite, thank you goes a long way with the volunteers, and none of them have to be doing this, so just be courteous of them and appreciative.
Thank those guys are out there for, some of them are out there for days, helping this race out, so it's real easy in the heat of the moment to get frustrated. And you come into a checkpoint, maybe broke down or something, and a checker's telling you to do something, and you start yelling at them, and that's not going to help anybody. So just remember that guy's there for you, and he's there to help, and he's volunteering his time. So definitely be courteous to all the checkers and the officials and people that are working and helping out on the race. And any local people too. I mean, it's obviously we want to have Iron Dog as a good name within all the villages and throughout the state. So just treat people with respect no matter where you go. On that same note, going into the villages and the different checkpoints, Iron Dog's very welcome there, and we want to keep it that way. So again, it's being respectful to everybody.
Cut your speed down a little bit when you're going through the village roads and city town roads.
Especially when you actually get into the villages, you slow down to a reasonable pace. There's no reason to be doing 100 mile an hour down one of the roads when you get into town. When you stay at somebody's place, typically we get there, you get into a checkpoint and people want you to stay with them. A lot of times you'll stay with somebody and you ask them how much you owe them, and they'll say nothing, and we typically always give them money or leave money behind to help them out. And like I said, they really do enjoy us coming through, and they want to help out and be a part of this race. So and we want it to continue to be that way. Like I said, everybody loves to be there, and I love being there. So
they're kind of the backbone of this whole trip, staying in their houses and whatnot and feeding us and everything. So Yeah, make it worthwhile for them.
Yeah. Kind of talking about the different checkpoints. We won't go in and talk about every single checkpoint, but a couple things to be thinking about. I do think that leaving from South Central, like leaving from the Big Lake area, I think everybody's goal should be to try and get to McGrath the first day. Again, weather and breakdowns could change that, but I think that ideally that should be your goal, is to get to McGrath.
Yep, which is about 350 miles.
Yeah, it's one of the hardest sections of the whole race, and it's nice to to get through that.
8 to 10 hour ride.
Yeah,
and you'll
then
be getting there in the dark.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the second day you'll press on to like the Yukon area, Yukon River, or possibly even the coast. If rules allow for the next day.
That's something else to kind of talking about the checkpoints and layovers, and kind of goes into strategy and stuff, is make sure you read the rules and understand like when and where you can take layovers.
And if you can go back to a checkpoint.
How much time you have. The rules have changed a lot this year, so I'm not going to get into all the details on the layovers and layover times, but read it. If you have any questions, just ask questions. The race marshals will be available. Again, look at the rules. That's the biggest thing, because that's what we have to adhere by, is the rules. So
you can always reach out to us on our social media platforms as well.
We're not
questions.
We're happy to help with any but when it comes to the rules and stuff like that, you're really better off to get that from the race marshals. But as far as what we do, and if you want any help with anything, we're happy to help. A couple things with the checkpoints is you want to make sure that we kind of talk about your clothing and spare parts for sleds and different stuff. Something that you can do is pre-stage some of this stuff at the checkpoint. So some of the major hubs like McGrath, Galena, Nome, Kotzebue, Unalakleet, you may want to send stuff out there, whether it's machine parts, extra parts,
windshields, A-arms. I mean, those are kind of your big ones.
Belts. Maybe some spare clothing, some heavier clothes. Like when you get on the Yukon, it might be nice to be able to, when you lay over there, to be able to put some extra clothes on. Just something to be thinking about. Like in Nome, we know we're going to have a long layover in Nome with the halfway banquet, and you're basically there for 2 nights. So having maybe ship up belts, maybe some carbides,
some
high facts, some stuff that you might want to change.
Preventative maintenance.
Preventative maintenance stuff. Making sure that you have those things there, or calling ahead to a dealership up there. Maybe they might have it. They can put the stuff aside for you. Something that I didn't. The first couple times that I did the race and over the years is also when you get to Nome and you're there for an extended period of time, is maybe having some street clothes. Again, ship up some street clothes up there so that you're not, running around in bunny boots or, all your race gear. You can actually put on some more comfortable pants and clothes to wear.
Casual wear stuff. And going back to that, there is a Polaris and a Skidoo dealer in Nome, so Morgan Sales and Services.
Articat too.
Articat as well, yeah. Morgan's is 443-2155.
Yeah. So just getting, like I said, checking to see if they have stuff that you need is prevent you from having to ship stuff up that you don't need to. What else do we need to talk about? Again, understanding like which direction, how we're getting there, how you're going to kind of, you want to kind of feel how long you're going to ride every day for the checkpoint. So again, you might kind of say, okay, we're going to go to McGrath, and then we're going to go from McGrath to Galena, Galena to Unalakleet, Unalakleet to Nome. Might be kind of like a strategy that a lot of guys would use. And again, plan on sticking with that plan, unless, again, Mike kind of mentioned, if guys just, everybody lays over, there might be a reason. It might be because of the conditions.
If it snowed a bunch, you don't want to go out and break trail.
Yeah, and if it's, sometimes it's better to run at nighttime than it is in the daytime. So, things just change that way. So,
Yeah.
just kind of think about what you want to do as far as layover, knowing that they can change. I would highly recommend, calling, if you haven't already, to do it as soon as possible.
Make housing and lodging
Make housing and lodging arrangements, especially like in Nome. They get booked up in Nome. All the main hubs that you think you're going to stay at. Again, like McGrath, Ruby, Galena.
Yep.
Those places get booked up pretty good, so it's good to have a place there. Even Caltag and Uniloclete those are spots I would highly recommend potentially.
Yeah.
Pre-planning on where you're gonna stay.
There's some bed and breakfasts in most of these places, so. Yeah. Okay, so.
Anything else we want to talk about on checkpoints and layovers? And like Mike said, if anybody has any questions or anything for us, that we're happy to help out.
Yeah. Where are we at?
I think something else. Actually, going back to race strategy, I hate to go backwards, but and this kind of goes with the checkpoints also. One thing to be thinking about, like when you get on the Yukon River, say you get to you leave McGrath and you get to Ruby. When you come into Ruby, you're going down. You go down, basically, you're going down to the river, and you can just feel it get colder and colder. So something you want to be thinking about is your clothes, because as soon as you get on the river, you're going to definitely cool down. So whether you lay over there or maybe have extra clothes ready for somebody to give you extra clothes when you're in Ruby. And then kind of the same thing when you leave Ruby and you go to Galena and then Caltag. Maybe the goal is to stop there and you'll be, but when you leave Caltag, from Caltag to Uniloclete, it's a portage and it's single lane, really bumpy, you kind of overheat. So be thinking about when you go from one extreme to the next, like how you want to dress, whether it's opening up vents or putting on an extra layer if you're getting on the river, or vice versa, taking something off if you're only going to Uniloclete. It's not such a big deal, but be thinking about that when it comes to your checkpoints and layovers, how you want to handle those. I think it's pretty big on how you're going to be dressing, and be thinking about that kind of as a something that you could change your clothes. Ahead. Yeah, you can kind of plan ahead.
All right, so now we're going to go into replacement parts, some general replacement parts on the sleds, some preventative maintenance items, and kind of
then we'll go over the sled.
Kind of a baseline setup.
Yeah. So obviously all the manufacturers are a little bit different, so we won't get into two. We'll kind of keep it more generalized. If you ride a Polaris, you can get with Mike or I. We can help you out with, again, what we think as far as some of the parts and how to actually set the sled up for durability and stuff like that. But as far as replacement parts, a couple things that we've seen over the years. Windshield's a big one, obviously. If you tip your machine over, have an extra windshield darts with you, carrying those with you. Yep. But have either windshields, if you have a chase plane with you, yep, or sending these out to checkpoints ahead of time.
Spare windshields, carbides, A-arms, front shocks.
Yep, front shocks.
High-fax.
Moving to the back, high-fax, bogey wheels, extra bogey wheels.
Belts, which is a required item anyway.
Yep,
so
but you might...
It's kind of a no-brainer.
Again, you might want to think about having extra belts like in Nome so you can switch them out there. Yep. And start with the fresh one there. Things like maybe having a spare gas cap for your auxiliary tanks. Yep. Even potentially a spare oil, or I have lost the main gas cap before in the race, so again, it's just something to think about.
Yep. Snow flap.
The snow flap is something we saw last year. Quite a few teams losing snow flaps. That's something that's a requirement to have one, so you're gonna have to either fix it or patch it. So something you might want to have. We'll move into kind of generic sled setups.
Yeah, we run different springs. You know, we're carrying more weight.
Yep.
A little bit more weight with some of this required gear, so we typically run a little bit stiffer springs, shock calibrations. We do a lot of testing with shock calibration stuff.
Yeah.
Auxiliary fuel tanks here.
You know, even the best machines, if you're out there breaking trail, going from even Galena to Caltag, we're going to be doing that twice this year. There's been multiple years where we've been out there with 2-3 foot of snow, and it's 100 to 110 miles.
Yeah, it's 90 miles. It's 90 miles from Galena to Caltag, and typically you've probably done 90 miles no problem, but it's full throttle the whole way under if there's soft snow out there, you're going to be burning exponentially more. So give yourself enough fuel.
Yeah.
Make sure your fuel tank.
And something else that potentially could happen is sometimes we have to do an overland trail leaving Galena to Caltag, or the overland trail from
the Yukon River's
yeah. So I mean, you just never know what can happen. So I've run out of gas before. The first year I did it, and I had to walk. So I've never wanted to do that again. So I prefer to have the capacity to carry more fuel than you need.
Yep.
And if you don't need it, there's really not much of a weight penalty if you don't have those filled up. But
and you can always back off your throttle a little bit to save fuel. All these newer injected motors do really well when you back off the throttle to save fuel.
Yep. A couple other things is, bags are a big thing. I mean, by the time you look through all your mandatory gear, extra clothing, your sleeping bags, everything that you need, it'd be nice to have it all laid out, making sure that you have everything's going to fit on your sled. So we carry extra bags in the nose cone, windshield bags, handlebar bags.
Handlebar bag, windshield bag there. We have our GPS that mounts.
Yep. GPS mounts is easy to see.
Mm-hmm.
Bag back here.
Polaris has come with these rear seat bags.
And then some people put auxiliary bags or strap something on the back of the tunnel.
Yep.
Again, if you're on a different machine, it all kind of applies though as far as bags. Obviously that's what you're going to need.
Just have sufficient storage to be able to carry all your gear, and make sure you test it all out to make sure it all fits well before the race.
Yeah.
So you can make arrangements to get more bags or bigger bags or whatever you need to do.
Yeah. Make sure you don't find out that it all doesn't fit the night before the race, because there's a lot of people that, get to the as they're going to the starting line, realize that they don't have enough room to fit everything. So don't be that. Make sure you have it all in there. Like I said, we almost test with everything that we're racing with, so we know where there's a place for everything.
Yeah.
We'll just kind of talk about briefly on, Mike kind of hit on it as far as suspension setup goes. I mean, I think that's probably the most important thing. Riding without any weight.
Without being weighed down.
Is so much different than when you have your sled completely loaded down. A lot of guys will realize, they'll load their sleds up and then go out and ride them and realize that their sleds don't ride good at all. So you want to make sure that you load these things down, so that way you can have the proper valving and springs like he talked about.
Kind of goes back to testing what you're going to race on,
Yep.
So
I think that, what else can we talk about? Also bracing, again, every sled's different. If you ride a Polaris, you can get with Mike or I. We'll tell you what you need to know on the Polarises, what we do with them. But sometimes rail braces, chassis braces, A-arm braces. Some, like I said, everybody's different on what they might need, but things to basically make sure that the sled's going to make the full race.
No sled is, quote, built Iron Dog ready. So, I mean, we're putting these through 2,000 plus miles of some pretty gnarly terrain. So, there's no manufacturer or no sled that comes out of the box ready to go for the Iron Dog. There's always some stuff you got to do. So, yeah, like you said, get with us. We'll let you know.
If you look here on Mike's sled, he's got an ISO Vibe here. If you haven't ridden with one, they're really nice to ride with. They're available for all the
vibration dampener, and it kind of softens the blows on the hard hits on your wrists.
Yeah, it
Isolates the handlebars.
makes a big difference.
Yep.
What else we got? Again, I think the biggest thing is trying out what you think you're going to use. Don't try something last minute thinking that you've figured something better out. If we see that fail a lot of people, they decide to try something the day before the race, and they're like, well, we should try this, and the race is not the time to do your testing and tuning. Do that before the race. So make sure that you're trying this stuff out. It doesn't matter if it's clothing, if it's machine setup, anything.
Yeah, you can never plan and prepare and test too much, Yeah. So especially for this race.
I think that's it, I think.
Okay, that's it. Be safe out there,
Thanks, everybody. Have a good Iron Dog.
Hey Alaska, get back in the air with Alaska Airlines Next Level Care. We're taking nearly 100 actions to protect your safety, like creating space on board, HEPA filters that eliminate 99% of contaminants like COVID-19, and requiring masks for everyone. Your peace of mind is always top of mind, which is why we're permanently eliminating change fees. On Alaska Airlines, you'll have more room to breathe, less room to worry. We're here when you're ready. Alaska Airlines Club 49.
Good afternoon. Name's David Botke, Brad Sordahl, Kent Taylor on the camera. We're going to walk you through the 2021 Iron Dog Tech Inspection process. And for heads up, we're using the 2020 Tech Inspection Checklist. You'll get the Tech Inspection Checklist in your racer packet sometime in January. And you need to study up and be prepared so when you show up for tech inspection, there's no issues. We're going to start off by going through the snow machine. First thing you need to fill out is your engine number and serial number, which if you have a new sled, you can get from your build sheet that you get. Otherwise, you need to find it on the engine and on the sled. We're not physically looking for the engine numbers at Tech, but you need to know where they are in the event something comes up and we need to find it. One of the more important things is your state registration. You gotta have it. Don't show up at Tech without that. What we're looking for is original equipment manufactured exhaust and intake. Stock exhaust can, stock intake assembly. Clutch guard. And a spare belt. Okay. Throttle has to have a return spring. Brake's got to work. Taillight and brake light need to be functioning. And visible. And visible. If this breaks, if you wear a lead dog that's wired in to work as a brake light, that will count. Working headlight. Again, if you have a wreck, if you have a lead dog, that will count as a headlight. Windshield. This is at every checkpoint, so if you break one, you got to come up with a way to fix it. Snow flap. Again, every checkpoint, you blow yours off, you got to come up with a way to make one or replace it. Carbides on your front skis. And a studded track with 2 studs per track bar. GPS or a map and compass. If you break your GPS, you can have a map and compass. And then right before the race, you'll be given a tracking GPS gizmo from timing and scoring. You'll have to mount on your sled, and you'll be given the tracker at the starting line. And that covers the sled for now. We're going to break and start going through the protective gear next. Okay, helmet. It's required to meet SNEL 2015, 2010, or ECE 22.05. On your helmet, know where that rating is, because we're going to want to see visual that it's compliant. Second of all, for your helmet, it has to be 75% blaze orange. And so this is an example. Eye protection, goggles, and exterior face protection or face shield. Upper body protection, a tech vest. There's a number of different models that are acceptable, but there's an example of your upper body protection. Shin guards from your kneecaps down to above your ankles. And then your arm guards. Let's see, face mask. Okay, face protection, and then a no fog is a good face protection. Gloves, and then gauntlets for your sled, on the handlebars of your sled. For boots, the bunny boots, they're split, rated down to -30. Bunny boots, or could you grab those? If you choose to use a boot like this that has a removable liner, you have to have spare liners. So that's your choices. There you go. All right, going to survival equipment. Sleeping bag, rated to -20. Recommendation, guys spend a lot of time packing their bags so that they fit somewhere inconspicuous on their sleds. Pack your bags so that the temperature rating is easily seen when you open the bag, so that you don't have to pull the whole sleeping bag out just to see the rating. We're going to want to see that -20 rating. Fire starter, matches or approved fire starter, or lighter. Torch. That's okay. There we go. Food, 2,000 calories is required, unopened. In the last couple of years, racers have been using multiple packages, but basically you need 2,000 calories, and it's unopened, and so this is for use in an emergency. Signal, either a signal laser or a signal flare, or signal flares. On your signal flares, make sure you check to see that they're not expired. Flashlight. That's not a flashlight.
I got a new one.
Yeah. Flashlight.
Extra batteries.
And spare batteries. And then a first aid kit. 1 to 4 people.
4 days.
4 days.
With regard to spares, on spares per person, spare face protection, spare goggles, spare thermals, upper and lower thermals, spare socks, spare gloves. Your spares need to be in a waterproof container. So whether it be a Ziploc bag, these event waterproof bags work real well. They're compressible. So if your spares, if you get wet and your spares get wet, your spares aren't any good to you. On a per team basis, tow rope, 25 feet minimum, 1,200 pounds. Five pounds of tools per team. Hatchet or saw. Oh, I already did the first aid kit. Sorry about that. That was first aid card. Bummer. Arctic stove and a cup to boil water. Then, with regard to recommended equipment, recommend a shovel, map and compass in case something happens to the GPS, spare batteries, and then, of course, auxiliary fuel for your machine.
Last but not least is we want to talk about the decals. Decals are real important because they represent really the investment that our sponsors are making in the success of the race. And because of them, we wouldn't be out doing what we're doing today. So they have to have a uniform and a consistent accessibility and presence on every single machine, whether it's the rec trail class or the pro class. You're going to receive in your packet, race packet, a form or a picture that looks like this, and this will change because depending on the sponsors at the time. But it's very important that you follow this precisely. And this is after 2020. And a lot of you may remember this, but we'll start, if you're in the trail rec class, you'll be getting green numbers. And the green numbers have to be very easily visible, and they all have to be the same place on the windshield here, as well on the back of your exterior jacket. And you'll have those dimensions and in your race pack as well, but they have to be there, and we have to see them at Tech Check as well. So your jacket has to have that number accessible to us so we can see it. Next, we'll just talk a little bit about the decals. You will get a list of the sponsors on your Tech Check sheet. And they're going to be at a certain spot on each cowling, and it'll be identifiable when you go to refer to this.
Okay, that's pretty much the entire tech list. But what we want to do now is kind of go over some of the items that trip up a lot of teams. And we mentioned it before when we went through the list. Just want to go through it again and make sure that you're fully aware and you can be fully prepared so that when you show up for tech, there's no issues, no stress for you, for your teammates, for the tech team. Quick and easy. The hints to get through it with ease. Quoting Brian Miller. Fill out and bring with you your engine serial number, your rail number, your snow machine serial number, your Alaska State registration, your current first aid and CPR certification card. Check your helmet. Know where the certification sticker is and that it's current. It's the right color and 75% orange. If you use boots that have a removable liner, you have to have a spare set of liners. Bunny boots do not require liners. Pack your sleeping bag so we can see the rating without having to fully open your bag out of its bag, that stuff bag. Bivy bag, we didn't talk about that real quick. This used to be acceptable, no longer is. It has to be a substantial one, and there'll be examples on the website and in your racer packet. The food, survival food, must have labels on it stating the number of calories, and the packages cannot be opened. Check that your survival flares are current, or if you're using battery flares, that you have spare batteries. Have sufficient strength rope, and you can go with more than what were required in the rules, because you're really going to need this if you're towing your buddy out or helping someone else out. The first aid kit we touched on, the one that was example was 4 people, 4 days. There'll be other examples on the website and in the summary letter in your packet that you get for tech inspection. Face protection is probably one of those important things as far as protecting yourself. So we gave examples of Iron Dog tested stuff, tough there with the no fog and the climb hoodie. And then tape helps. And the sponsor labels, as Kent talked about, showing appreciation for the people that helped put this on. So make sure you fly their colors and do them proud. So any questions at all, contact any member of the tech team, contact Iron Dog headquarters, John or Kelly, or any of the race marshals. Don't wait until tech inspection to ask questions. Thank you very much.
And then lastly, we've been doing tech for quite a few years, and we try to dial this in so that it's as easy as possible for both the racers and also the tech team. So just remember, we're volunteers, and we do this because we want to stay involved with the race, and this is our way of contributing. But we're dedicated to the success and safety of the race and racers. We don't make any of these requirements. We're simply here to make sure that you're compliant with the requirements. And what we're trying to do is just basically it's your minimum safety requirements, and that's what we're trying to do. Lastly, the requirements are similar for when you start the race and when you return. So when you come back to Big Lake, we're going to go through the same process on your machine. So everything that you were required to have, with the exception of maybe consumables, we're going to be looking for when you finish the race. Thank you for your time.